Hi, everybody. This is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work at Connect, Dot, and Epiphany, Online Explosion, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom. You can check out my website, AllyKatzkreations211.com. You can find artwork, pyramids, and all kinds of fun stuff. Unique, handmade, made with love and protection. So you can email me if you're interested in anything that you see. And happy 4th of July, as I'm getting downloads. Personal survival is what we're going to pick up today. Before I begin, yesterday was really intense. My nerves are still, I'm rattled, so no excuse for the shit reading that I might be doing, but there was a really bad accident in front of my house and the car landed in my driveway. Thankfully, my property was spared from any damage, and the driver of the vehicle that got hit, it was a hit and run. She's fine. I'm waiting now all day to know if they're going to tow the car out of my driveway. Fun times. So I'm up early and figured I'd get a video in before tonight. Coffee is my hero right now. So please be safe and be seen. Personal survival, physical proofs, general subject. The physical proofs given in the following chapters place the subject of conscious personal survival beyond all argument. It is physical fact, scientifically proven, with physical evidence, and no longer dependent alone upon the reports of any mediums or even upon the record of any scripture, which relates the same facts, such as the appearance of Moses and Elijah to Jesus and his disciples on the Mount of Transfiguration, and the 13 appearances of Jesus to his disciples elsewhere. The evidence can be duplicated by any sincere investigator who will take the trouble to set up the conditions necessary for successful experiments. Persons who try to argue about the facts of survival are simply ignorant of the scientific facts repeatedly demonstrated by competent authorities. Literally, they do not know what they are talking about. It is no longer a matter of belief or fact. I'm very curious into what direction this is actually leading us. Even before the development of radar and the atomic bomb, no thoughtful scientist would say of any new discovery or idea, it is impossible. It is against all the laws of science and nature. Much less would such scientists express a dogmatic opinion about a subject which they had not studied and personally investigated, any more than they would dare to express an adverse opinion as to the manufacture of the atomic bomb without having had special training in nuclear physics and atom splitting. No matter how learned they may be on other subjects, they should not allow themselves to express an opinion on such a technical matter as this without having been trained in the technique of this specialty. They only show their ignorance by doing so. When such recognized scientific authorities as Alfred Russel Wallace, Sir William Crookes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Professor Camille Flammarion, Professor F.W.H. Myers, and Sir William Barrett of England, Professors Charles Rickett, Gustave Gallet of France, Professors Cesar Lombroso, Ernest Bolzano, and Dr. Joseph Labani of Italy, Dr. A. Schrenik Notzing, Dr. Franz Hartmann, and Dr. Johann Karl Jelner of Germany, Professor Harold Nelson of Norway, Professor Alberto Brinies of Costa Rica, Professors James Hervey Hyslop and Walter E. Prince of Boston, Professor William James and Dr. Cordon of Harvard, Professors McDougall and Joseph Banks Rhine of Duke, Professors Robert Hare and Hilpratch and Dr. Hayes Agnew of the University of Pennsylvania, Robert J. Tillard, Chief Entomologist of the Commonwealth of Australia, and a host of others, when such great scientists, professors, and doctors, after careful investigation and experiment, pronounce survival a scientifically demonstrated fact, the opinion of lesser scientists who have not made special investigation into the subject or of little value. Sorry, I see my camera going bananas. I'm not really moving. Scientific testimonials. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle says, I have never, in my 30 years of experience, known one single scientific man who went thoroughly into the matter who did not end by accepting the spiritual solution. Professor Lombroso, for a long time, ridiculed the claims of psychic research for survival after death, but when he was introduced to investigate, he offered this handsome apology. I am ashamed and grieved at having opposed the psychic facts. Genuine psychic phenomena are produced by intelligences totally independent of the parties present. I am absolutely convinced of the fact that those who once lived on Earth can and do communicate with us. It is hardly possible to convey to the inexperienced the adequate idea of strength and cumulative force of the evidence. Sir William Barrett, FRS. The famed Sir Oliver Lodge said, I tell you, we do persist. Communication is possible. I approve that the people who communicate are who and what they say they are. The conclusion is the survival is scientifically proved by scientific investigation. I am constrained to believe by the invincible logic of facts. Professor Raoul Pickett, University of Genoa. Dr. Gustave Gili of the Metaphysic Institute, Paris, states, the facts necessitate the complete overthrow of the materialistic philosophy and conception of the universe. When I remembered that I branded as a fool that fearless investigator Crooks because he had the courage to assert the reality of psychic phenomena, I am ashamed both of myself and others, and I cry from the very bottom of my heart, Father, forgive. I have sinned against the light. Professor Orchorowitz, something like that. Sorry, butchering that. University of Warsaw. I have activity of a helicopter type really low to my house. Give me a second. As it is 4th of July, and I think there's a parade around the corner. Can only imagine why that was so low and shaking my house. So I do apologize. A person may not believe that water is composed of two gases, oxygen and hydrogen, in the proportions of H2O. For anyone can see that water is a liquid, but the fact of its being composed of two gases is not open to argument. It is simply a question of how familiar one is with the laws of chemistry. Likewise, anyone who argues against the truth of survival simply exposes his ignorance of the facts discovering through scientific research. It makes no difference except to yourself whether you believe in it or not. It is fact in nature, whether you are familiar with it or not. Scientific, well-proven assurance of personal survival is one of the greatest boons that humanity can receive. In the face of the stark tragedies of war, famine, and pestilence, what a blessing it is to be positively assured that personal survival is beyond doubt. Modern scientific investigation into the subject does not have to depend on the imperfect reports of our senses, which are subject to illusions, but relics largely on reports of scientific instruments which are not subject to psychological reactions or illusions. Even if these psychic phenomena are super physical, they are not supernatural, hence should not be treated either as spooky or to be worshipped as divine. They are just natural phenomena of a super physical causation, and someday they will be so familiar to sincere students as to cause no astonishment. They will seem as commonplace and take for granted as the former mystery of radio, television, and radar. Types of physical proofs. We have said before, the whole subject of personal survival and every type of physical proof has been thoroughly investigated by trained investigators in laboratories equipped with special scientific instruments and light enough to see everything in a room, with every precaution taken to prevent fraud. To obtain best results, special conditions have to be established and special techniques have to be used, just as they do for any scientific investigation. As a result of years of such investigation and thousands of tests which confirm one another, some types of physical proofs of personal survival have been obtained and repeatedly verified by independent investigators, in which widely separate countries. Some of these types physical proofs we will study in the following pages. And I will continue on with this with spirit photographs and Skotographs. So guys, I want to share a picture that I've always had jump out at me. If you see this picture, there is a car accident in the UK, and this is what was pictured from somebody from afar taking, like we always do, taking live action photos of accidents, but you see clearly, definitely a soul, a body leaving. So this has been photographed, and there are other instances. I can't find the photos. I'm trying to do it quickly, just to explain that this stuff does exist. Tangible evidence. I have photos of things that can't be explained. Ghost hunters and all that stuff are providing you with evidence. It's up to you and your mind to receive that information or not, but it's scientifically showing you that's a soul. That's not a doctored picture. I mean, everybody jumps to Photoshop, but what happens to the photos that were pre-Photoshop, pre-AI, Polaroid? You can't mess with the Polaroid. You really can't mess with actual film. I mean, now in today's technology, you could put a photo in and distort it as much as you you want. But back then, when those pictures were taken, those are real, So we're going to move on to spirit photographs and Skotographs. Proofs of identity depend on many factors. Primarily, these are based on certain characteristics which remain in evidence despite changes in appearance. Probably no one evidence would constitute absolute proof or identity, at least not for everyone, for only by the accumulation of several types of evidence can positive proof be established. While photographs are generally accepted as certainty, their variability prevents them from being absolute proof. Not only does the photographer present to us pictures of several different poses from our selection, each one varying in appearance, sometimes markedly, but we ourselves change in appearance, sometimes more, sometimes less, from month to month and from year to year. Often this change is quite marked, but in general, our characteristics are sufficiently definite for photographs to be accepted as evidence of identity. Spirit photographs. Therefore, while spirit photographs are not considered to be absolute proof of identity, they may well be considered as great contribution to the mass of proof that is being accumulated to prove personal survival and direct communication with those of the spirit world, there are still some unenlightened people who claim that spirit photography cannot be, since they say that which is invisible cannot be photographed. But science has proven, now they're going through photographs, but it's hard to see, that there are many substances, chemicals, and gases that, while not visible to the naked eye, are sufficiently tangible to produce an image on the photographic plate. And so in some way, spirit photography can be produced. There are two methods of producing spirit photography. In one of these, the spirit is directly before the camera, partially materialized. In all spirit photography, the same unchanging characteristics which give evidence of identity when photos are taken under test conditions of those who have long departed from this earth are good evidence of their identity in the strictest sense. In the first method of producing spirit photographs, there must be present one or more persons who have the ability to exclude from their bodies enough etheric matter, ectoplasm, from the deceased ones who wish to be photographed to use and materialize their astral bodies to a density sufficient to affect the photographic plate or film, even though not dense enough to be visible to the naked eye. Some spirit photography. Thousands of photos have been taken with ordinary cameras with plates sealed in a package by the dealers at the time of purchase and unopened until placed in the cameras by chosen judges. Lady Conan, I work with a Conan, sent the writer spirit pictures of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, taken in her own home by her son Dennis, with his own camera, and plates 2 years after Sir Arthur's graduation from Earth life, the picture we produce herein. We've seen hundreds of similar identified photographs taken under test conditions, which definitely rule out all chance of fraud or trick photography. One of the most spectacular and convincing of such photographs we have ever seen, and which we also produce herein, was taken several years ago out of doors at the Centrifa in Whitehall, London, an Armistice Day, at a certain spot in front of the Skotographs. I don't know, pronouncing that wrong. A group of 200 spiritualists were kneeling in prayer. When the plate was developed, there was revealed a cloud of ectoplasm over the group. In this cloud were found the pictures of faces, more than 60 deceased British soldiers, most of whose faces were identified later. The cloud of ectoplasm was so dense that it obscured most of the Skotographs and some of the branches of the nearby tree. The remarkable thing about the picture is that it was taken out of doors in broad daylight in the presence of thousands of spectators, where any fraud was impossible. So I'm going to go and see if this will pop up if I share screen. So this is a spirit photo. I mean, yeah, that's bizarre, and that was taken a very, very, very long time ago. And then it's really hard to see. I've seen a lot of those. So, Skotographs. We have said before that there are two methods of producing spirit photography, and the second of these is called Skotographs. Skotographs are pictures impressed upon the photographic plate or film in complete darkness, and without the use of the camera or any known kind of light, infrared or otherwise, except the inherent radiant light of the spirit world. No camera is required. A good account of the rare type of mediumship is the experience of Reverend J.T. Willis, D.D., pastor of the Franklin Street Presbyterian Church of San Francisco. In 1903, he investigated the claims of a Dr. W.J. Pierce, a businessman of the highest integrity who claimed to have taken pictures without a camera in connection with the mediumship of Mr. Edward Wally. On the day appointed for the test, Reverend Willis brought a package of plates at a photo supply store and carried them in his pocket to the doctor's office where he was to meet the medium. The doctor, who was an amateur photographer, had a dark room and all the equipment for development. The two entered the dark room, which was lighted by usual orange light used by photographers. In his account of the experiment, he says, I took the plates out of my pocket and took one plate out of the package. After marking it on one corner, I took it by the corners toward me and held it out to the medium, who, placing his hand on one top of the underneath, held the plate between his palms. I continued to hold the plate by the corners and never let go of it for an instant. To my surprise, I heard 3 distinct taps upon the plate. The medium removed his hands and I put the plate at once into the developer and developed it myself, no one but myself touching it for an instant. Neither was the plate out of my possession for 1 second from the time I brought it until I had it fully developed. To my astonishment, there was the face of a lady on it, and so plain that it was recognized by my daughter as the likeness of a lady who was never in California and who died in England several years ago. In the course of about 15 minutes, we had 4 tests, and with 4 distinct and different faces with the same medium and in the same manner. Then I felt compelled to acknowledge that by a force not visible to me, this work had been done. The following photograph is the one taken by Dr. Reverend T.J. Willis, D.D., and described above. The following inscription on back of the photograph below was written by Dr. Pierce. Obtained in London, England, October 8th, 1903, under strictly test conditions within a box holding 6 sensitized plates, no camera used. The plates were purchased, developed, and fixed by me, the medium doing nothing except to hold the unopened box between his hands for about 2 minutes prior to the developing. Jeffrey O'Hara, composer of There Is No Death, gives a description of the very rigid scientific test to which this picture above was put to proof its authenticity in the Psychic Observer, January 10th, 1945. In the Psychic Photograph or Skotograph, the extra of Willie Rogers Center is most positive proof of survival. This picture was verified as evidential by Congressman Adolph J. Sabath, a fairly distinct picture that bears a remarkable resemblance of the late Oliver Lodge, can be upper center. The spirit extra to the right center has been definitely claimed as the lone Chainley. This scotograph of flowers was precipitated by the author under strictly tested and scientific conditions. Although the subject is constantly avoided by his biographers, there is ample documentation documentary evidence to show that President Lincoln was an ardent spiritualist. He not only attended seances, a celebrated medium, Miss L, but even had the materializing seance held in the White House with the child medium Nettie Colburn. The following psychic photograph of Abraham Lincoln, obtained in 1925 through the mediumship of Craig and George Faulkner, noted English mediums, have been published numerous times in London spiritualistic journals. It is recognized as probably the most outstanding spirit photograph of Lincoln on record and was obtained under strict test conditions. I don't see the pictures here, guys, otherwise I would share screen to show it. The Master Jesus. Of course, there were no pictures of Master Jesus made during his earth life. All the pictures now in existence are but the conceptions of various artists. This picture was precipitated for the author directly from the invisible. The discarnate artist stated that the radiance of the master was so glorious that it almost blinded him. This sketch was the best he could do under the circumstances. When it was furnished and finished, he precipitated it into a physical for our use. The face is sensitive and kind without being effeminate, strong, positive, and masculine without being stern. Unfortunately, there's only 2 pictures here, and I'm going to leave it there because the next one's handwriting, photographs, and signatures. So we'll tackle that the next time. But I found this very interesting because people are still, when I'm doing my TikToks and I'm doing any sort of spiritual concepts that I promote on my channel, there is so many people who still are skeptical and don't want to believe that there is life after death, that there's just a transformation of energy. We are so stuck in the physical world with the low vibratory states of density that you want to hold on and cling to things that you're not going to be able to take with you when you physically pass away. And that is just a transformation of your energy into your light body. That's all death is. It's a transformation of energy. This is a vehicle and a shell. My loved ones are around me and surround me all the time. They're just a thought away. I have my own spirit pictures. I have aliens. I had a Stargate in my house. I had a lot of activity, and there are many places you can find this activity. Does it mean that everything that dies is going to be stuck here and present itself as a specter? No, absolutely not. But there are some spirits who either instantaneously die and don't know that they're dead, or are latched on and attached to things that will stop their process from evolving and ascending. And this is very important because there's so many people, when your animals die, and when I had so much loss in my life. It's just a transformation, and it's a beautiful one at that. Unless and until we go through the death state ourselves, we really can't know. But people who had near-death experiences tell you they go into a loving embrace of light. They are seeing their loved ones and what they can remember. We're all fractals. We are already dwelling in spirit. Our higher selves are spirit. It's one of many of our higher selves in higher densities. There's always a higher something above the other thing, the other self, that is giving direction, and it's all densifying to hit us. Be kind to yourself. There is nothing to fear. It's just a transformation. When we lose that fear, because that's what's been indoctrinated and programmed into us, to latch on to things. When you don't latch on anymore, you're not in a state of complete collapse. I know when my father died, I was actually more relieved than I was sad, because my dad suffered. My dad had scleroderma. It's a rare disease in men, and it's rare to begin with, but in men, it's like there's not a high percentage of men. There's more women with it than men. And my dad died at 58. I was only 22 years old. And that changed the course of my life. Watching my mother going through the same similar nonsense in different forms, the medical system failing her, no one intervening when they needed to. I only have one guardian angel, Earth Angel, that I know personally that helped saved her and bought me some time with her. But otherwise, it was her time to go. And I got to pass her on, and that was an honor. And she's here with me right now because she's going to make me cry. Stop. But we need to know they're not gone. And we're going to meet their energy and their lights again. We're already with them. It's when we realize such things that we can let go and detach. Because the only thing you're taking with you is your soul at the end of the day when you ascend. You're not taking material objects and items because there's no place for it. Everything is different in higher densities. And sometimes we get a glimpse of the intangible things that a lot of us see, but yet still exist, but can't physically see or touch or feel. Sometimes you get the signs, sometimes you get a wave and you get goosebumps. And sometimes when someone tells you something, you're like, they're cranky. They're Looney Tunes. But I think more and more people are having more experiences with the fourth astral world, which we are embarking and embracing right now. And more people are going to start believing in the metaphysical world and things that you can't see and perceive, but yet still exist. Just like the analogy with water and it being gas, and you're breathing in oxygen. Do you see oxygen? Do you see radio waves? Do you see these things, but yet they exist? You have a radio signal. Instead of doubting and poo-pooing because a book told you not to believe in that stuff or it's evil, oh my gosh. Open up your mind and expand. We're not alone. And we encompass so many things. It is intangible and incomprehensible to even describe all the things that you are and what make you up. So next time I'm going to do the handwriting and other things. Very interesting. I'm almost done with the book by Ruth Montgomery. I'm going to do a book review because her work is very interesting, and she types. She goes into like a meditative state, and a lot of people do spirit writing, and she does the typing, and she's very famous, a well-known author. So I want to finish that book in order to do the next video. So guys, sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, shielding and protective energy. Please go within. Be the shoulder for somebody today. Be the lighthouse. Seed your truths. Go in your heart space. Not all of your guidance is there to be exact. They want you to go in your heart to make sure it aligns with you first, especially with predictions. Guys, I hope you all have a beautiful and happy 4th of July. Please be safe out there. Like yesterday, I'm just glad no one died on my property, and that a soul was alive and saved from a brutal hit and run. Don't take life for granted. Enjoy it. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye for now.